This video is brought to you by CuriosityStream. If you sign up to CuriosityStream with the link in the description, you'll also get access to Nebula, where you can listen to the newest episode of my podcast, Ghost Notes, right now.
Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh, for the fields we go, laughing on the way.
This is the earliest surviving recording of the song that we know today as Jingle Bells. It was recorded on an Edison cylinder all the way back in 1898 and performed by the Edison Male Quartet. And that wasn't even the first recording. Will Lyle recorded the song nearly a decade earlier in 1889, when recording technology was still in its infancy. Back then, the song might have even had a different name. When James Lord Pierpont first published the piece in 1857, it was under the name One Horse Open Sleigh. It's unclear why exactly Pierpont's song has become so ubiquitous today. It wasn't particularly original in its time. The sleigh ride trope was common to the minstrel songs of the day. Just look at Buckley's sleighing song, which was published 4 years before One Horse Open Sleigh. Pierpont's piece wasn't even intended as a Christmas song. It was written as a drinking song for Thanksgiving. Nevertheless, Jingle Bells has grown to become synonymous with Christmas joy. It's been performed by everyone from Frank Sinatra and the Beatles to NSYNC and Gwen Stefani. It even became the first song broadcast from space in 1965, when astronauts aboard NASA's Gemini 6 played it as part of a Christmas prank. As one of the most widely performed songs in all of music history, Jingle Bells is synonymous with the joy and cheer of the holiday season for millions worldwide. And I think that's why it's so devastating when Joni Mitchell transposes the song to a minor key and uses it to open her heartbreaking Christmas anthem, River. In 1970, Joni Mitchell sent a telegram to her then partner, Graham Nash. The letter read, "If you hold sand too tightly in your hand, it will run through your fingers." It was her way of ending a brief but passionate relationship with her fellow folk singer. Though they only dated 2 years, Mitchell was convinced that Nash was one of the great loves of her life. In her sorrow, Mitchell holed up in the studio and recorded an album that would define her career, Blue. According to David Yaffe's biography of Mitchell, Reckless Daughter, the singer was so emotionally fragile during the making of the album that she would spontaneously break into tears if new people entered the studio. In an album full of raw, intimate songs, River stands out as one of the rawest and most intimate. Mitchell opens a window to her life and gives the listener a look inside.
He tried hard to help me, he put me at ease, and he loved me so, not he made me weak in the knees.
And just as she lets us into her love, Joni Mitchell lets us into her sorrow and self-doubt as well.
I'm so hard to handle, I'm selfish and I'm sad, now I gone and lost the best baby that I ever had.
This isn't just any kind of sorrow, though. It's the special kind of melancholy that only Christmas can bring. Mitchell sets the scene in the first verse of River.
It's coming on Christmas, they're cutting down trees, they're putting up reindeer and singing songs of joy and peace.
In the broader media canon, Christmas is nearly always portrayed as a time of happiness. And a lot of the time, that's what Christmas is. For some people at least, but not for everyone. For a lot of people, the holiday season brings on a unique kind of loneliness and sadness. It's the kind of sadness that can only come from seeing pictures of idyllic, happy families and being reminded that's not what you have. Or knowing that is what you have, but also knowing that you won't be able to go home and see them. In 2020, there's going to be a lot of lonely Christmases, as the second wave of the coronavirus pandemic continues to ravage the world. You can count me among those who were supposed to go home for Christmas this year, but couldn't. And maybe that's part of why I've been listening to River a lot these past few weeks. But River isn't the only Christmas song that gets at this particular shade of sadness. In 1943, Kim Gannon and Walter Kent wrote a Christmas song intended for American soldiers who were overseas fighting fascists. That song was called I'll Be Home for Christmas, and after a heartbreaking recording by Bing Crosby, it quickly entered the broader Christmas canon. Crosby made his career singing Christmas songs of all varieties, but I think he had a special knack for singing Melancholy. This also comes through in his iconic take on White Christmas, another song that reminisces about being far from home and dreams about an idyllic Christmas.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas.
But White Christmas wasn't written by someone who celebrated Christmas. Instead, it was written by Irving Berlin, who was Jewish. Berlin's Christmas tradition was much more somber. He would spend the day visiting the grave of his son, who lived to only 3 weeks of age and died on Christmas Day. Irving Berlin proves that one doesn't need to celebrate Christmas to partake in its unique melancholy. In fact, Christmas often brings a new depth of isolation and alienation to those who don't celebrate it. I've spoken with friends of mine that don't celebrate Christmas, and several of them have expressed as much, noting that, at least in America and Canada, everyone is expected to shape their life around Christmas. But the same can't be said about holidays of similar importance to different faiths. Indeed, in Berlin's own Jewish faith, Hanukkah isn't a high holiday, but it's commercialized far more than something like Rosh Hashanah because it happens to coincide with Christmas. Philip Roth, who was himself Jewish, wrote about Irving Berlin's Jewish genius on White Christmas. God gave Moses the 10 Commandments, and then he gave Irving Berlin Easter Parade and White Christmas. The two holidays that celebrate the divinity of Christ, the divinity that's the very heart of the Jewish rejection of Christianity. And what does Irving Berlin do? He de-Christs them both. Easter turns into a fashion show, and Christmas into a holiday about snow. In Reckless Daughter, David Yaffe compares this observation to River, noting that Joni Mitchell makes Christmas about ice. The ice that Mitchell longs for in particular is a river, frozen over thick enough that you can skate away from your sorrow. This is no doubt an image that comes from the winters of Mitchell's youth, spent in the frozen prairies of Saskatchewan. Mitchell ends every verse with the image of skating home on a river.
I wish I had a river I could skate away on.
So much of the brilliance of River comes through in the music. The verses that bookend the song don't actually say anything about sadness, they merely set the scene as Christmas. But the chords behind those words, and Joni Mitchell's fragile delivery, belie an emotion that you could never quite pin down with words alone. And to end the song, Joni Mitchell returns to where it began, Jingle Bells. Transposing Jingle Bells to a minor key and playing it with such stark, crisp piano undercuts one of the most universal Christmas songs. It's a musical magic trick, exploiting the ubiquity of one Christmas song to create a different perspective on the holiday. And I think that perspective is one that's important to keep in mind, especially in a year filled with so much sorrow and so much isolation. So whoever you are and wherever you are, whether you practice Christmas or not, I hope that you can find your own river to skate away on at the end of this sad, strange year. And I hope that we can all look forward to things getting better in the new year to come. As a Christmas present to myself this year, I'm planning on taking a break from making videos for a few weeks. But that doesn't mean you'll be without polyphonic content. If you want to hear more of me chattering about music, you can check out my podcast, Ghost Notes. The latest episode is up on Nebula right now, and in it, Corey from 12 Tone and I talk about one of my personal favorite topics, lyrics. And beyond that, Nebula has tons of original content from all kinds of awesome creators, including a number of videos by me that are exclusive to the platform. That means that in my video absence, you can still watch my series on Led Zeppelin's epics, or my working titles episode, where I break down the Game of Thrones opening credits. Nebula is a platform created by and for independent creators like myself, and the kind folks at CuriosityStream have seen how important Nebula is for us, and they've teamed up to help us support the platform. That means that if you follow the link in the description, you can sign up to CuriosityStream and get full access to Nebula. CuriosityStream is the best place to stream documentary content online with thousands of titles to choose from. Personally, I'm looking forward to kicking back and watching some documentaries over my holiday. One that I'm particularly excited about is The Secret World of Lego, which tells the story of one of my favorite toys as a child and really as an adult. If you've ever seen these ads and thought about trying out CuriosityStream and Nebula, well, now's a really good time because there's a holiday special promotion. That means that you'll be able to get CuriosityStream at 41% off if you follow the link in the description. That's a better deal than you'll get anywhere else, and it'll also give you full access to Nebula, where you can watch fantastic content from all of your favorite smart YouTubers. So head on over to the link in the description to get started today. Following that link does a lot for my channel, and it helps me keep growing and experimenting. So I want to thank you all so much for your love and support this year. And hey, happy holidays.